You and I have gone through traumatic events recently, sad events, and I feel like the world has gone through sadness and trauma.
Yeah.
And we were talking about before the difference between, the little T's and the big T's, the bigger moments that feel like heavy, and also the kind of the daily traumas that we either put on ourselves or our environment kind of creates for us.
Yeah.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
I feel like both you and I have gone through traumatic events recently, sad events, and I feel like the world has gone through sadness and trauma.
Yeah.
And we were talking about before the difference between, the little T's and the big T's, the bigger moments that feel like heavy, and also the kind of the daily traumas that we either put on ourselves or our environment kind of creates for us.
Yeah.
And trauma is something that more and more people are talking about because I feel like people don't have the solution on how to heal. As an athlete, when you hurt yourself, you can't keep playing until you heal the bone or you heal something. If you tear a muscle, you can't really keep playing. If you do, you're going to hurt yourself more. But for whatever reason in our emotional life, when we go through a tear or rip or something broken, we seem to just keep going without healing. If we go through a breakup, we don't really heal. If we go through a business breakdown, we lose our career, we just keep moving without healing. Why is healing so important for everyone at all times to be on that journey? And how do we heal trauma, when it's invisible?
Where do I begin? So we run from these impermissible feelings from our past. These are emotional disturbances from our childhood, traumatic events, trauma with a big T, trauma with a small t. A big T trauma is being sexually abused as a child, having some kind of violence, living through a catastrophic event, growing up in an alcoholic home. A small T trauma is being bullied.
Yeah.
Small T trauma is being told you're stupid by a teacher. Small T trauma could be living and surviving COVID. We've all lived through trauma way before COVID. It's just now more present for us. But the traumatic events from our past are the ones that are so impermissible because inside those experiences, particularly childhood developmental experiences, is the shame, the impermissible rage, the feelings of inadequacy and feelings of being unlovable. And so we build up all these different protection mechanisms around us to avoid ever having to face those impermissible wounds. And those protections could be achievement. They could look good on the outside. That's the scary thing, right? So workaholism can be really praised at times. It can look like alcoholism, it can look like drug addiction, and we just create all these forms of protection around ourselves to never have to go there. But what's happened recently is a lot of our typical coping mechanisms won't work anymore.
What are typical coping mechanisms for most people?
Typical coping mechanisms: heading to the fridge, overeating, overworking, not working, like numbing out, vegging out, the sofa, a coping mechanism. And I refer to coping mechanisms as protector parts. I am now trained in internal family systems therapy. And so in IFS, we talk about these protectors. And what are they protecting us from? Those exiled child parts, those impermissible parts that we don't want to ever touch. Sometimes we don't even know that they're a problem.
Right.
Like a workaholic may not yet know that that's a problem for them, or codependency. So they're constantly protecting themselves by finding relationship, or for me, there was the controller.
So were those your two main coping mechanisms, I guess?
Well, there was my 25-year-old cocaine addict. And then there was another interesting protector part is even spirituality at times, because while it's a beautiful practice to be on a spiritual quest, and it's what I've been writing about for over a decade, we can at times use our spiritual practice to get above the pain. And so
give me an example.
You're newly sober and you're like in every meditation class and you're doing, your Kundalini yoga, and you're getting high on your own supply, right?
Yes.
Which is excellent. It's much better than drinking. And it's a beautiful pursuit. but it's also another form of protecting what is deeper. And frankly, that spiritual bypassing, as we would call it, is actually a tremendous gift at times because it's too painful to go to those places.
Yes.
So if spirituality is what you've got, that's way better than the drugs and the alcohol, right?
But you're still masking.
But it's
in a
still
sense,
another way
right?
of masking. It's still another way of getting above what is so uncomfortable to face below.